So what does it really mean to be a strategist? Especially when you have no idea what's coming next. Well, today, we're going to dive deep and unpack the core ideas behind strategic mastery.
You know that feeling, right? It is so frustrating. You feel like you did everything right, you made all the smart moves, put in all the work, and you still came up short. We're going to get into exactly why that happens, and, more importantly, how a simple shift in your thinking can totally change the game. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to uncover the two very different worlds that all our decisions live in. Then, we'll see how that affects our mindset. After that, we'll talk about a super common mistake called the performance trap. And finally, we'll put it all together to show you how to start winning the real game. All right, let's jump right in with the absolute foundation of all strategic thinking. You see, the source material makes this critical point. Not all decisions are created equal. They exist in completely different universes. And this slide right here, it boils a huge idea down to its very essence. Every single choice you and I face lives in one of two worlds. On one side, you've got the world you can actually shape, where your effort directly changes the outcome. Like training for a 10K or learning a new skill. But on the other side, you've got the world you just have to adapt to. Things you have zero control over, like say the global economy or the weather. And this is the #1 question you have to ask yourself. Before you do anything, before you spend any energy, you have to figure out the situation. Are you in a world you can actually influence, or are you in a world you just have to navigate? Your entire strategy depends on that answer.
So how does this play out in the real world? Well, it all comes down to your mindset. Knowing which world you're in tells you which mental tools to pull out of the toolbox, because it's not as simple as just being positive.
In that world you can control, oh yeah, positive thinking is like rocket fuel. Believing you can do it, picturing yourself succeeding, staying motivated, that stuff genuinely makes you perform better. It's what gets you through the tough spots to actually create the results you want. It's a seriously powerful tool here. But flip over to the world you can't control, and that same exact mindset just becomes wishful thinking. Hoping with all your might that it won't rain on your parade, or that the traffic will just disappear. It has almost no effect on reality. In this world, strategy isn't about hoping. It's about being smart, preparing, and adapting. Okay, so we've got the first major piece of the puzzle down. Knowing the difference between what you can control and what you can't. But here's where things get really, really interesting. What happens when your success doesn't just depend on you, but on what your competitors are doing? And this brings us to the second huge strategic idea, what's called the performance trap. This is the really subtle but massive difference between just doing well and doing well enough to actually win. And this table just lays it out perfectly. Look at that score, a 95 out of 100. By any absolute measure, that's fantastic, right? That's an A+. You should be thrilled. But in a competitive game where your performance is relative to others, that same amazing score only gets you second place. You did great, but someone else just did a little bit better. And that quote really gets to the heart of the performance trap. When you're in a competition, the rules of the game just flip. Your target isn't your own personal best anymore, it's what your rivals are doing. The goal shifts from simply being good to being better.
All right, so now let's bring these two big ideas together. This is where we stop just learning concepts and start actually building a real, usable strategic edge for ourselves. You see, a true strategist learns to look at any challenge from two different angles. First, they ask, can I actually control this outcome? That tells them whether to push harder or to adapt. Then they ask that second, crucial question. Is this an absolute game or a relative one? That tells them if just doing well is good enough, or if they need to figure out how to beat everyone else. And this is the bottom line. This kind of deep strategic thinking isn't just for, chess masters or generals. It becomes absolutely essential anytime you find yourself in a situation where you have to do better than other people, whether that's in your business, your career, or anything else. When winning is what matters, you have to play a different, much smarter game.
So, I'm going to leave you with this question to really think about. Take a look at your own life, your own goals. Where are you just focused on doing well when you're actually in a competitive game? A game where you really need to be focused on doing better. Answering that question for yourself, well, that's the first real step to strategic mastery.